Ayurveda is not just a treatment protocol, but it is a living, breathing system that teaches us how to eat, sleep, and live. There's something really grounding about systems that have stood the test of time. Ayurveda, a 5,000-year-old system of healing from India, is one of them. Thank you, Nidhi, for being a part of Take 20 and helping us to understand the fascinating world of Ayurveda.
I have spent my entire life thinking about what makes people sick and what makes people tick. And whether it's their minds or it's their bodies. I tell you, one of the things that Ayurveda makes you is completely non-judgmental. Like, you become more witnessing in so many ways. Everything is just a pattern to be spotted. Doing anything mindlessly is not Ayurveda. Doing anything to bring yourself back in a certain rhythm, in a balanced manner, is Ayurveda. You work with your body, you work with your breath, you work with your mind, and you work with your feelings. Like, your body starts working against you when you're not living according to the clock of the universe.
When I've been speaking to quite a few experts and nutritionists, and I hear this one thing repeatedly. They talk about the future of nutrition and science being individualized. And it's fascinating for me because Ayurveda always preached a super individualized way of healing, and that one size does not fit all. So please introduce me and my listeners to the entire world of doshas and what is prakriti and how do I live according to my prakriti.
To start living a life where your internal reality matters so much more than the external reality. And in this time where the external reality is fragmented and chaotic, it's just such a beautiful way to live.
Now, for someone who finds Ayurveda intimidating and who is interested, like, how would you introduce someone who is a beginner, who's keen to learn, to this fascinating world of Ayurveda? Hi guys, welcome back to Take 20. In a world that is obsessed with biohacking and wellness trends, there's something really grounding about systems that have stood the test of time. Ayurveda, a 5,000-year-old system of healing from India, is one of them. Now, I understand that it can seem like a jungle of Sanskrit terms, and there are seasonal charts and doshas, and it can all be very intimidating. It was for me as well until I stumbled upon Nidhi Pandya's work. Nidhi is a third generation Ayurvedic practitioner, and she grew up with this amazing knowledge that she also has a gift to impart to the modern world in a very succinct, easily understandable, compassionate way without how do I say it, the complicated jargon. And from reading her work, I've understood that Ayurveda is not just a treatment protocol, but it is a living, breathing system that teaches us how to eat, sleep, and live. So this particular episode is not about medicine in its clinical sense, but more about rhythm, lifestyle, and understanding that your body knows. Yes, your body knows. I read her recent book, and I think that all of you should read this book. So thank you, Nidhi, for being a part of Take 20 and helping us to understand the fascinating world of Ayurveda.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much for that great introduction. And the way you introduced Ayurveda, I feel like, wow, you really get it. There's so many people who don't. And you talked about the rhythms, you talked about the fascinating world of Ayurveda. We're speaking the same language, and I'm loving it.
You come from a lineage of Ayurvedic practitioners, and you are third generation. So how did this? Tell me a little more about your journey. Was it love at first sight? I mean, I'm a South Indian, and of course, every Indian grows up with Ayurvedic practices, a little bit of oiling your hair, oil baths, some things that our grandmothers and mothers told us to do. But eventually, when we grew up, we thought it was uncool, irrelevant. So was it the same for you? Was it like love at first sight, or was it like suddenly this magical connection?
So I will tell you that my grandfather was an Ayurvedic healer. My father he works with a lot of Ayurvedic companies, but my grandfather was really the influential person in my life. And I grew up in a large joint family of 14 people. My joke is that Ayurveda was my first language. So I didn't realize that growing up, I was learning Ayurveda. When I heard dialogues like, hey, don't eat dahi at night, you'd rather eat it in the day, Now, here, as a young girl, I'm making all of these connections where I'm like, oh, maybe at night my digestion is weaker, that he is generously offered to me in the morning time. And so you're making these connections. Maybe it is heavy. And so I'm thinking that this is heavy, it's offered to me in the morning time. Maybe my digestion is good in the morning, maybe it's not so great at night. Or, for example, when we would go out to play, right, all of the sisters, we were like 5 girls in the house. And my grandfather would say to one of my cousins that, hey, you should be extra careful when you go out in the sun, make sure you're hydrated. And then when we would go out, lo and behold, I would see her reaction in the sun. And then all of those, right, subconsciously, I was learning that, hey, like, each person is different. I was learning that the world has rhythms out there. There's morning, our body might be different. Evening, our body might be different. I didn't realize that how much of what I was learning is just this science of life. And I was always sensitive, Samantha. I was always curious. I have spent my entire life thinking about what makes people sick and what makes people tick. And whether it's their minds or it's their bodies. There was a joke that I'm like this social scientist and I'm always looking for patterns. It's just who I am. So like
So when you go out for lunch, are you like studying people all the time?
I don't think I'm studying people. I tell you, one of the things that Ayurveda makes you is completely non-judgmental. Like you become more witnessing in so many ways. Everything is just a pattern to be spotted. And you're right, like I accidentally spot patterns. I don't mean to judge people, but I will spot patterns and it's so subtle in how they're talking, in their demeanor. And it's not even me doing it actively from my brain. And it gives you a very good story. It's not to like or dislike people, but you learn about who they are and how you interact with them as a result. And all of this is happening at a subconscious level. And I fundamentally believe that as human beings, I mean, as any species in the planet, we actually all carry this, right? My joke is, look, animals know, deer know that they need to wake up in the morning, no alarm clock needed. They graze in the same plot of land, there are no complaints. Tigers don't get carried away and say, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and meditate. They know they're nocturnal. There are nursing mammals that will go and identify galactical plants that will increase milk production and consume them. I've seen dogs and other animals roll their bodies in sulfur-rich soil when they're wounded so that they can start healing. So if all of these species on the planet know exactly how to live, how did we forget as human beings? The truth is we are supposed to be those pattern seers. We are supposed to understand those rhythms. And luckily for me, growing up in a family like this, being sensitive, being curious, I just became this pattern seer before I got my formal education. So it was only a matter of time, Samantha, as I got into my adult, like a little bit older, adultish years, I was like, I don't think I can do anything else. And it's a funny story if you want to know. It's not a very long story. But my mom was like, what are you going to do? You're going to live in the US and why are you studying Ayurveda? Nobody knows what Ayurveda is. And she's like, you're going to give it up tomorrow, right? Because I was like, go with the flow, child. I really never stuck to anything, to be honest with you. But I knew so much that I was never going to give up Ayurveda. And while nobody understood Ayurveda at that point, like nobody really cared, I used to say this to my mom. I used to be like, Mom, I'm going to study Ayurveda and I'm going to think about Ayurveda every second of my day. I want to live with this in every cell of my body so that when I'm reborn, I don't have to wait another 18, 19, 20 years for me to be so fully sure that this is what I want to do. Like, I want to die with Ayurveda in my mind so I can wake up with Ayurveda in my next life. And I meant it. I was so serious about it. And I didn't care if Ayurveda in this lifetime went nowhere. But I knew clearly there was nothing else that I could be doing but this.
But that's amazing. I mean, I can feel your passion. You're on another continent, but I can feel it sitting here, the passion with which you speak. And when I was researching Ayurveda, to be honest, I am someone who does not know much about the subject, but I have interest. And when I was researching, I realized that the meaning of Ayurveda is the science of longevity. Is it true?
So I would say, yeah, longevity is actually the right word. I wouldn't say, and
it was absolutely shocking to me because while we were talking about longevity thousands of years ago and the world is catching up only now and suddenly everyone is talking about longevity and biohack your way to longevity. So it blew my mind that we were talking about longevity thousands of years ago.
It's so crazy, right, Samantha? So like Chavanprash, right? Chavanprash.
Right, of course, yeah.
Well, the sage Chavan, like the story in Ayurveda is, and like we have this in our text, like it's such a scientific, if you look at the ancient Sanskrit texts, they're so scientific, like they're scientific books basically. They're not like religious books or they're super. But there's a story in there, and it does not have a lot of stories, about sage Chavan, who is this like old sage, and then he falls in love with a young woman. And now he wants to become young again. He wants his virility back. And then he goes to eat Chavanprash, and that's what brings his youth back. So you're absolutely right? Not only that.
Is that what Chavanprash is?
Yeah. I mean, that's the first story of Chavanprash. It restores, it bestows him back with his youth. And it's crazy, right? Because there's a whole section of Ayurveda. One of it's dedicated, Jara. It's dedicated to longevity. It's not just let's weave in longevity everywhere. It's let's just talk about longevity. Let's just go all out.
Okay. So now for someone who finds Ayurveda intimidating and who is interested, I mean, like, how would you introduce someone who is a beginner, who's keen to learn, to this fascinating world of Ayurveda?
Yeah. So Samantha, I think most people think that they have to use a substance, or like they have to use haldi a certain way, or they have to use ashwagandha, or they have to use a certain formulation to be able to practice Ayurveda. Because I've heard that several times, especially in India. When I travel, people come and tell me, hey, you know what? I practice Ayurveda because I take Chavanprash every day, or I practice Ayurveda because I use Chitla. And I tell them that is not Ayurveda, actually. Doing anything mindlessly is not Ayurveda. Doing anything to bring yourself back in a certain rhythm, in a balanced manner, is Ayurveda. So basically, what are these rhythms? I think the first way to follow Ayurveda is to get back into a circadian rhythm clock. That's the first thing. So if people say, hey, what should I eat? I said, don't even get there. First, let's organize your day so that you have your body actually working for you and not against you. Because that's really what happens. Like your body starts working against you when you're not living according to the clock of the universe. So if you want, we can go over the 6 phases and exactly what I tell you, right? So the day is divided between to 6 parts, right? And the first principle of all the Vedas is yatha brahmande tat pinde tat brahmande. As is the macro, such is the micro. As is the micro, such is the macro. So our bodies are very much like the universe. And we are diurnal mammals, which means that we rise with the sun and we sleep with the sun. And we are not like bats or owls or tigers, right? So we function basically like plants do photosynthesis in the day. Our body really is the most active when the sun is out. Which means that let's go into this division. Morning, between the hours of 6 and 10. What is happening outside in the world? Things are wet. If you're walking on wet grass, it's probably wet. Our body very much is like that. It's wet and sluggish in the morning. People who are prone to nasal congestion, eye boogers. My joke is you cannot show off in a yoga class because your joints are like all thick and wet in the morning. So is their digestive system. Now, biochemically, our cortisol and sugar are both high. They're both high to wake you up, and they're both like slimy chemicals in the body. We know sugar syrup, how that looks like. So our glucose is high, our cortisol is high, and then you wake up in the morning. The first thing we want to do between the hours of 6 and 10 is we want to get our body fired up. I'm not getting into Ayurvedic rituals, but you want to exercise. That's the best time to move. And the Western world is actually coming back to this whole idea today, is that, there's the best time to exercise, and it is in the morning hours. So when you do that, you lower your cortisol, you lower your sugar, but you also really start firing up your digestion and getting ready for the day. Now, once you've done your exercise, you've taken your shower, then you can eat a breakfast. Now, eating cold fruits, eating smoothies is like putting wet in something that's already wet. Your gut is trying so hard to fire up. But the minute you have cold smoothies or you have anything cold in the morning, it's going to hurt your gut. So the best food to consume in the morning, like all the blue zones where people have lived long, long lives, all of those areas in the world, we want to eat something warm and something light. So whether it's a porridge, we have these dalias in India, you can have a hot cup of milk with spices, whatever it is, but hot, warm or hot, and light. That's between the hours of 6 and 10. Then you go to the next slot, which is 10 to 2. This is the time when the sun comes to its peak and it starts its slow descent around 2 o'clock. So this is the peak of the sun. As the sun peaks, all diurnal species, which means species that really perform during the day, they have their peak of activity. As human beings as well, no matter what office you're in, right? No matter where you're working in the world, you'll see that most collaborative work, most front brain work happens between 10 and 2, where you're actively engaged in the world outside of you. So you want to do that. Of course, you'll do your most busiest work. But also it's the time that the digestive system becomes the most active. Your digestive juices, your gastrin, your insulin sensitivity, which means your ability to break down insulin, is at its highest during these hours between 10 and 2. So eat your biggest meal, indulge during lunchtime, whatever it is that you're looking to eat, this is the time to do it. You fantasize about something, this is when you go and you get it, because your body is the most ready to break it down, especially if you've done a warm, light breakfast. Then what happens between 2 and 6? Let's see what happens outside in the universe. As the sun begins to set, wind picks up in the world outside. And what happens to us? There's wind in our body. Most people around 4 o'clock experience this slump where they're stretching their body. They're like, oh, so there's literally wind outside and there's wind inside. Now,
Wow.
we want to extend our days, right? Electricity has ruined our lives, to be honest with you. In the last 100 years, 1930s, electricity was invented and we completely messed this, right? Because we want to stay up much later. So instead of using that as a cue to really slow down, we go for a cup of coffee. We go for caffeine. And I'm not doing this to scare people. I'm just doing this to bring attention, right? But basically what we're doing is that we are actually extending our day when our body is ready to shut down. Our chemicals inside start looking drastically different once the day starts to set. Once the sun starts to set, biochemically, our reality inside is drastically different. And we take caffeine to override that reality. Ideally, at around that 4 o'clock mark, you want to go out, you want to get some fresh air, maybe do a few rounds of pranayama, maybe drink some tulsi tea. And those are gently stimulating so you can go on for the rest of your day. And the rest of the day is not till 11, 12 at night. The rest of the day is ideally till 10. Anyway, so this next phase between 2 and 6, your body gets windy. 6 o'clock around sunset is when, honestly, your dinner should be done. Because our ancestors, if you look back before 1930s, our ancestors didn't really light a lot of lamps and have big dinner parties at night. I mean, dinner, it was supper. It was eat your soup, eat your stew. That's why they say eat your soup. It's not drink your soup, you know. The right way is eat your soup. So people ate a light dinner, and in all parts of the world. And then after 6 o'clock, you kind of slow down your body because you have no digestive capacity. In fact, after 6 o'clock, our body develops insulin resistance, which means we're all kind of slightly diabetic at that point, pre-diabetic at that point, because your body is not breaking down your sugars. So that's what happens. So that's 6 o'clock, done. No more food in our stem system.
Oh my God, do you eat dinner at 6 p.m.?
Samantha, I eat dinner like 5:36, I'm done. That's dinner.
Oh my God.
And I come from a Jain tradition. So
That's the
moms,
dream.
aunts, everybody eats dinner early. And you can see the remarkable, I mean, knock on wood, we can see remarkable aging. Like, so in terms of you're not aging for a long time, right? And just working this one principle, like, right? So you say change one thing out of all of the things that I've told you. Okay, fine, you cannot exercise in the morning, no problem. But if you just do heavy lunch and light dinner, and that's where you start your Ayurvedic journey, with that light early dinner. Come back in 3 weeks and you'll be a different person. You'll sleep differently, you'll think differently, your bowel movements will be different, your periods will be different, everything in your life will change.
That's doable. I think that's simplistic as well. Something to start. If you're going to start on this journey, you have a heavy lunch and an early light dinner. That's doable. I'm going to try this for 3 weeks and and tell you how I feel.
And like you can be traveling, right? You can be anywhere. I will sit at dinner tables at these dinner parties and I'll just be eating my soup littles on the side and I'll never say anything, right? One part of this is you never talk about what you're doing socially, about why you're doing certain things, unless you're having a health conversation, because then you're in for trouble. People feel judged and people have their opinions and just there's a whole play with your mind.
But I have a question. I mean, like I myself, I'm an early riser and I like to sleep early. But I know a lot of people around me, they function their best at night. They think they have their best creative juices flowing at night. So how does that work? I mean, like, how does it work so differently for different people?
Yeah. And that's a great question. I get it all the time. But Samantha, to be very honest with you, unless you're an owl or a bat, or a tiger, or an animal of the nocturnal species. None of us are nocturnal. The truth is, Samantha, we're so distracted during the day as human beings. Our mind is in so many places that the only time some people are able to disconnect from the world is in the evening. And yeah, the dark actually does tap into certain neurotransmitters that make us more creative, but it's creative passion that you take to the bedroom. It's introspection that you take to your own life. And we use those juices, in fact, now to perform outside in the world. So I would agree that the juices change at night, and it's meant to make our life juicy. That's simply, I can say, just meant to make our life juicy in our intimate life, or just introspectively. And unfortunately, because we're so distracted, we end up taking that time to actually do some creative work. Now, I would
How
say
long would it take to retrain your mind? How long before the hard part is over and it becomes a habit?
I would say 3 days feel the hardest. First 3 days are the hardest. But
That's not
by
so bad.
3 weeks, and it's not that you can just change the bedtime, right? You also have to change the dinner. If you have to change the entire clock, like it's like a rhythm. You change one thing, everything falls in place. So if you just go back, and it's not a big ask, right? To eat a warm breakfast, light, to eat a heavy lunch, to eat a lighter dinner, and then to go to bed before 10 or at 10 p.m. As many days as possible, not every day. And by the time you're at the 3-week mark, those neurons have wired and fired together. Like anything that works together becomes a habit by the end of those 3 weeks. And then honestly, people are like, I don't even know what I was doing before.
I like that you started off with not something to consume, but actually a habit to change. Because Ayurveda has been around for so long, it has developed a bad rep in the sense that doctors are always advising against it. These herbs affect your liver. They are harmful. What are some of the misconceptions that you have noticed, and what is your opinion on them?
So, Samantha, and I'll say, look, some of it is real. Self-medicating. So people assume that herbs are not self-medicating. That I've heard 100 times people saying, 1,000 number of times people saying, oh, it's natural, I can take it. Because it's natural, I can take it. But that is not true. Even the poison from a snake is natural. The venom of a snake is natural. It does not mean that it's not going to harm you, it's not going to kill you. But if you work, so that's the only reason why Ayurveda and Ayurvedic herbs have earned a bad reputation, is because we've had this mindset of self-medicating. And I see people buying tablets from all the local brands in India and just continuing to eat them for a lifetime. That's not what you do. Just how you would not abuse allopathic medicine, you cannot abuse herbs. But if you work with an Ayurvedic doctor and you get a systematic herbal protocol, which always will tell you to take herbs for a limited amount of time. And I want to tell people how that protocol goes really quickly. The first thing that we do is pachan. We do digestion. I'm a pachan, and like just overall the toxins that need to be digested. That's the first round of herbs.
What did you say it was? Pachan. Sorry,
Pachan.
what did you say that?
Pachan.
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 Okay.
Like you could say pachan, but it's like pachan.
Okay.
Right? So
And
the first
what does that mean exactly?
Pachan means digestion. So we will do digestive herbs, because any toxins that are accumulated in the body that are not moving, we want to digest that, right? And we activate metabolism in doing that. We activate the function of the mitochondria in the cell. Your body becomes a powerhouse, because what we've done is we've removed all those wastes and all that toxin that was accumulated in the body and that was undigested in the body. But that's the first round of herbs, will always be pachan, no matter who you work with.
They're like bitters. Are you talking about like they're bitters, right?
A lot of them are bitters, some of them are pungent. Some of them can be a little bit spicy, like they can give you a trick or two, for example. But a lot of them are bitter, so you're absolutely bang on about that.
And you take it for a specific amount of time.
Yeah.
Right.
So in our treatment protocol, it'll start with there, right? After Pachan, we'll go to Deepan. Deepan is, again, awakening of that fire. So if Pachan is digestion of the toxins, Deepan is awakening of the fire of the body and of every cell in the body. It's beautiful. Then we will go, after Pachan and Deepan, then we will actually go to the condition that you've come to work with us for. So if somebody's come for migraine, somebody's come for a skin condition, we'll work on that and bring the body back in balance. If somebody is just using herbs, let me be honest with you, you can never find full balance because you're still continuing to create the causes, right? So let's say I'm doing great herbs and I'm doing strong herbs, but I'm still eating the way I'm supposed, like I'm not supposed to eat, or my lifestyle is still like I'm sleeping at 4 a.m. every day. You're going to come back to this imbalance in a matter of time. You might feel better short term, but you're going to definitely come back. Herbs cannot replace what you need to change with your nutrition and lifestyle.
So you're clearly saying that Ayurveda has a treatment protocol and a lifestyle protocol that work side by side and they cannot work independent of each other.
So true, exactly. And Samantha, do you know what the first step of treatment in Ayurveda is? It's beautiful. The first step of treatment is Nidan Parivarjan, which means avoiding those causes which have led to the disease. That's the first.
But for that, your body must know, and we've lost that connection with our body.
Yeah,
haven't
and
we?
then it's the function of the Vaidya, right? Like when I work with people, Samantha, my first call is 2 hours long. My first meeting with them is 2 hours long. So it requires, we need to be detectives today. Vaidyas need to be detectives to kind of like really get into what is happening and what are those causes that have led you to come to this place. And then after that third process, right, whether you're doing cleansing or you're doing pacification with your herbs, after that process, you go to Rasayani therapy, and that's where it ends. Rasayani is we bring back the vitality of the body because it's undergone treatment, and we leave you. So it is this standard 4-step treatment protocol, and this is how the herbs are used. After that, you may do a Rasayani herb, like Chavanprash is a Rasayani. You might do a Rasayani, and that's your maintenance, your everyday maintenance dose, but that's it. But if you do...
How long would you say this whole entire process is? Or how long is it usually?
So Samantha, it depends from person to person and condition to condition. But I would say most of my clients, we would be doing this for about 3 to 4 months.
Right. And then you go on a maintenance. But I've always noticed people take things for life and they self-medicate, they don't stop. So I think that people are to blame as well for taking things into their own hands.
Samantha,
and then blame the system.
Oh my God, if you take anything by yourself without working with an Ayurvedic doctor, you're doing yourself damage. It's literally like taking allopathic medicine because everything has to go through your liver. And we are so taxed today that your liver gets taxed. And sometimes the herbs may not be of great quality, but if you're working with a doctor, they'll probably refer you to a place where the herbs, he knows how those formulations are made. I'm so careful about what brands my clients use because I want to be very certain that all these formulations have gone through the process that they're meant to be put through. So you want to work with a doctor. You don't want to ever self-medicate. Self-medicating yourself is like really taking prescription medicine and doing it on your own. It's not meant to be. Unfortunately, India does not have high regulation when it comes to that, but they really should. So it's not your business to take things because you think it's good for you. When I work with clients who've medicated themselves for a long period of time, Samantha, I need to do more work with them rather than somebody who's not taken anything at all.
Right. When I've been speaking to quite a few experts and nutritionists, and I hear this one thing repeatedly, and they talk about the future of nutrition and science being individualized. And it's fascinating for me because Ayurveda always preached a super individualized way of healing, and that one size does not fit all. So please introduce me and my listeners to the entire world of doshas and what is prakriti and how do I live according to my prakriti, and does it mean that is my prakriti fixed for life? This subject is fascinating and also extremely confusing to a lot of us.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the confusion as well once I've gone into a basic explanation. So Prakriti is, what is the climate of the body that you're born with? How is your inside functioning? And These days, I'll tell you, Prakriti is compromised for everybody. It's the genetics you've got, it's the condition that was in the womb, it is the quality of the egg and the sperm at the time of conception. It is so many things. And with this, right, with this raw material, a baby is born. And now the baby is born with certain tendencies in its body, and that is Prakriti. And then there are choices that you make as you go along life. And those choices can probably create new imbalances. And those imbalances, after a period of time, accumulate in your body. And that becomes what we called Vikruti. But now I'll explain what this is. What is Prakriti? What is Vikruti? And what am I really looking at when I'm looking at somebody's Prakriti? But the concept is Prakriti is what you're born with, and Vikruti is how you live your life and what happens to your body as a result.
Right.
And we can take an example as well.
So if you can make me the guinea pig. I want to know, what is my Prakriti? How will I find out what my Prakriti is?
I can probably do a better job of telling you where you are today, Sam.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
But I'm going to first explain doshas.
Right.
Okay. So doshas are that our bodies have these three essential functions that need to be done at all given times. Without those three functions, we cannot live. What are those three functions? One is growth, that our body is constantly in a growth mode, and all raw materials which are helping you to do that growth as well as protecting the body are called kapha elements. Now I want to give an example. Visually, anything think about aloe vera, think about smushy banana, and all of those parts in our body, which is our mucosal lining, which is our phlegm, our saliva, our joints, the fluid in our joints, our synovial fluids, the cytoplasm in our cell, which is like this jelly-like substance. All of those are protective. They're keeping your body in the growing phase, right? Every cytoplasm is like the raw material for the cell. It's the growth material. And anything that keeps your body in there, it's all kapha dosha. Everybody's body needs kapha dosha. Without kapha, your body cannot regenerate new cells. Without kapha, you cannot have all this protective padded lining that you have in your body, right? Second dosha is pitta dosha, and then I'll explain how they get imbalanced. Now our body, we are like metabolic beings. We're always doing some type of transformation, whether it's your digestion, whether it's your hormones, whether it's just thinking through our minds, whether it's the activity of mitochondria in the cell, which is our powerhouse, which is actually getting the cell to function. There are all these heat-led processes in the body that are allowing for some type of transformation to happen at all given points. Now, Pitta dosha is responsible for all of those activities. And the third set of activities, right? So we talked about growth, that our body is constantly growing and protecting and building. Like the mother dosha is kapha dosha.
Which is kapha.
Everything anabolic, as scientists would call it. Everything metabolic is pitta dosha.
Pitta.
And the third is your body needs to break down substances constantly. And it needs to move. It needs to dry out what is not being used, like cells that are old, parts that are old. Then everything needs to be broken down, things need to move out, and things also need to be evacuated, right? Like your urine and your bowel movements, and you push a baby out, your menstrual fluids, your reproductive fluids. All of that movement and breakdown is led by what we called vata dosha. So kapha dosha is slimy and nice and gooey, everything building. Pitta dosha is hot, because it's all metabolic. Vata dosha is like a wind. Think of this wind, right? Because if we didn't have it, how could blood go from our foot to our head? It can travel anti-gravity. And that movement and that breakdown of substances is led by Vata dosha. What a beautiful body we have, right? Like so much order. However, most of us are imbalanced. We're not doing equal amounts of growth, appropriate amounts of growth, transformation, and this movement and breakdown. Because we make certain lifestyle nutrition choices, because of our prakriti, which means we may be born with like a certain tendency. What happens, Samantha, as a result, is some people have an exaggerated building function, which means their bodies may be bigger, they may have excess tissue, everything is extra slimy in their body, more sluggish, they may have high cholesterol, they may have diabetes, everything that has to do with excessive building. And this can be called as a kapha imbalance. So they say my dosha is kapha. What they really mean is that my body has a tendency to build more than is actually needed. People who have a pitta tendency, oh my goodness, their body is on fire, right? So if you have that exaggerated tendency, which means your digestion may be hot and burning, you may go to the toilet 5 times a day and people are like, oh, I'm so jealous of you. But the truth is you're burning yourself from the inside. You may have a strong reactivity to the sun. You may get skin rash. You may be sharp in your mind and sometimes angry. So people who have an extreme pitta imbalance have all these heat-led tendencies. And the third one is vata. Vata leaves you depleted like the wind. If you go out on a windy day, Samantha, if you go out to a desert for the whole day, and just by the sheer aspect of that wind, you're exhausted. So vata dries you up like the wind inside. Bloating, anxiety, insomnia, all of those things can happen when it's out of balance or when you have an exaggerated tendency. People can have, right now, we're living in a generation which is so imbalanced that people have more than one tendency, which is exaggerated, and people notice these mixed imbalances. But our goal is to go back to a place which is the optimum inner climate where all the 3 doshas are in perfect balance. There is no sliminess of kapha, there is no excessive heat of pitta, and there is no excessive dryness and depletion of vata. So those are doshas. Prakriti is what you're born with, what your genetics have gifted you, what the environment in the womb has gifted you. And then Vikruti is how you live every day and the imbalances it can cause. So somebody could be born with a kapha tendency, but has gone into this, I'm going to exercise 3 times a day. I'm going to eliminate all my good fats. I'm just going to stay wired all the time. And now over a period of a lifetime, the person has accumulated excessive vata tendencies, which means they're breaking down more than they actually need to, even though they may have been born with a kapha tendency. Most likely, people exhibit imbalance in the dosha that they were born in. So people who are born with a tendency for pitta, let's just say, for example, they may actually, most likely, they'll actually do things that will aggravate their pitta. It's not wrong. You may be all born with a prakriti, but if we just identify, right? Samantha, I have 2 daughters. And just by knowing what my daughter's tendencies are, the level of support I can give them at this, I mean, right now they're 17 and 13, but the level of support that I can offer is, I will never, so that it never goes to a vikruti that is so strong. It'll never go to
It's so funny. It's so funny that we all think we're so complicated, but while you were explaining the 3 doshas, I mean, I could relate immediately. I knew which one I was immediately. And I can also know the people around me where they fit in. So we all think that we are so complicated, but in reality, not so complicated after all.
Absolutely, Samantha. We're so not complicated. If animals know, right? If animals know their body, then they know how to live. And we consider ourselves to be so much more intelligent as this species. Almost too, we've intellectualized so much that we've lost our instinct. But you're so right. Like, it's actually way easier than people make it out to be.
So from what you say, I gather that I am pitta, maybe?
I think pitta, and then probably a secondary of vata, simply because our lifestyle today is geared towards vata. But I think knowing you, and you will look after yourself well, you will keep it. Because pitta can be beautiful, actually, right? Because it can give you focus, it can give you drive, it can give you fire. Like my second daughter is pitta. It's so fun. She has so much zest for life, and she's so engaged. And as long as I'm not driving her crazy in the heat, or like she loves spicy foods, I'm like, no, Sanju, we have to tone it down a little bit. Give her enough coconut water when it's hot, and I know she'll stay well. Like she needs enough fat, she needs enough oil massages. But I think pitta for women is a great dosha to have a tendency, because it can be balanced very well. But then it can also be used. Most successful people in the world have some level of pitta.
So if I want to live in harmony with my prakriti, and now if I do have a tendency for pitta, how towards pitta and maybe the vata, how do I balance it out? How do I bring myself back to a harmonious rhythm?
Great question, right? And Samantha, I like to work with this idea of the inner climate. So let's just say that your body is hot, right? Like it's hotter. It's like that's the climate inside your body. And right now it may be hot and moist, but I suspect, and even as women, as we get into our 30s, 40s, 50s, we become drier. We lose our fuel. Like a young 16-year-old, you can see the skin, they have natural oils and in fact too much oil, right? And then we use our fuel, like we use all of that. And then by the time we're like 55, 50, we can see all the dryness and the wrinkles on our face. So we lost that fluid inside, and it's not water, it's this kind of fluid that we carry. And that's what we become dry with, right? So I would say that you're not hot and dry like Rajasthan, that's not where you are. But let's say that the inside of your body could be potentially hot, like a nice city in the south, which is not super humid, like something like Hyderabad in a way. And I'm believing Hyderabad is not super humid.
It is.
And I clearly don't know. I clearly don't know that. But let's just say dry, like you're a little bit hotter and drier side. The way you would look after yourself is, I would say, if I have to give you the easiest protocol, if I say, okay, Samantha, these are the easiest things you can do to look after yourself, I'd say I'm going to go to the breath because it's a very easy tool, even if you're traveling, right? You want to make sure, even if you're wearing a wearable, that your respiratory rate is under 14, under 12. The lower you can bring it, the better it is. Because the longer your exhales are in your body, the more fuel is retained inside. Short breaths, which is busy, run. Short breaths dry your system. And we don't realize over a lifetime, and that's why yogis say that the number of breaths you come with are limited, preordained. They're determined before you're born. And you don't want to use them up very quickly. So it's your fuel. Your breath is your fuel. So you want to
Extend my exhale.
extend your exhale, Samantha. It's like the single most advice I can give to most people. Extending your life is extending your breath.
See, whatever you're saying isn't complicated at all. And
No.
I do believe that it can be easily included in our day-to-day lives if only we give it the importance. We read up a little, and I think everything you're saying is so easily applicable to our daily lives. And it's funny that you said exhale longer, because I have this habit of short breaths. And sometimes if I'm replying or sending somebody a text, I think I hold my breath. I don't even breathe at all. And it's so funny that you said exhale longer. And yes, I meditate, but I do have this habit of holding my breath, not breathing at all.
And it's not holding like in a kumbhak, it's holding like it's arrested. And
Right, yeah, not in a good way.
We still does small exhales and we don't realize, but we're almost in an inhale, like in an arrested inhale.
So if I want to start, if would this book help in anyone understanding their dosha and how to live in harmony with it and how
Yeah.
to balance your doshas?
So Samantha, it'll give you your inner climate. I've moved away from dosha, right? Because it's such a marketing gimmick, dosha, and it's so
Right.
complicated. And then every quiz you take will give you. So I want people to understand their bodies for what it is. Like for now, for example, if you were going to a new city and someone told you, hey, the weather is going to be hot and super humid, you'd know how to pack. Like it's not effort for you. You'd be like, okay, I know I'll take this. So once you understand the climate of your body, it's not, you don't have to be like, should I eat this? Will this harm me? Should I eat that? What should I? You already know.
Yeah, you're not going after the latest trend. You're listening to your body. And I think that it's once you're in tune with your body, it's the most amazing feeling. Instead of always looking externally and looking for others to tell you what's right and what's wrong, if we can just learn how to listen to our bodies, and I think that's the best gift that one can give.
So fulfilling, right, Samantha? It's like
Right.
you feel so connected while this world is fragmented and breaking apart. This is
I think you feel secure and rooted.
Yes. And it's never just your body, right? It's like your body has rhythms. Like being connected to your body is being connected to your rhythms. And rhythms are more subtle. So that rhythm starts creating coherence in your breath. That rhythm starts creating coherence in your mind. It starts creating coherence in your feelings. So you actually work with all four. You work with your body, you work with your breath, you work with your mind, and you work with your feelings. And so I think work needs to be done on all four planes. And one kind of rubs off onto the other planes as well. And it's just, you start living a life where your internal reality matters so much more than the external reality. And in this time where the external reality is fragmented and chaotic, it's just such a beautiful way to live. But Samantha, if you want, I can go back to some of the other things that you can do that are easy for your hot and dry inner climate, like hotter inner climate. So I'm going to give you the easiest things, right? So elongating your exhales, making sure whenever you see the moon, take the moonlight, because it refuels your body, cools your body. So it's a moon night. That night, just go for a walk when you can. Floral fragrances like jasmine. Jasmine is a big one. Wear white, light linen clothes whenever you can. Wear lighter clothes. In terms of foods, rice, coconut, almonds are your staples. Curry leaves, bitter greens, again, which anyways are staples. But you want to stay away from spicy. You don't want to overdo the spices, like the spicy rasams, etc. You want to stay away from all the spicy foods as much as you can. You will do a little bit, but lower your threshold. And just honestly, that's about it. If you just did this, tuned into the breath, got enough rest repair, you would notice a big difference. And what you're doing is then you're not burning out your youth, right? Longevity is about the only period that we can actually extend successfully is you want to extend and enhance that period of transformation in our life, which is the youth. And that we do by not burning out quickly. And we don't burn out quickly by doing all of these things.
I agree. And everything that we hear today as a trend, as the current trend, like morning routines, evening routines, Ayurveda always spoke about it. And suddenly it's back in the limelight and everybody wants to know what's your morning routine and what's your night routine. And so what I think Ayurveda calls it dinacharya. Am I right?
Exactly, and pronounced exactly the way you pronounced it. So beautiful, yeah.
So what's your take on how important are these rituals, morning and evening routines?
I think in a world where we are on 100 miles an hour speed, dinacharya or ratricharya, which is your nightly routine, allows you to break from that and reconnect. It's a checkpoint. And you want a checkpoint that will set you up for the rest of the day. At night, you want a checkpoint that will create repair from what you've experienced in the day and set you up for this beautiful time of night where internal repair happens to begin with. And your body goes into this magical magical wonderland where everything is being reset. And you want to set yourself up for that, for success. So think of them as beautiful checkpoints that are setting you for the next phase. It's like those little stations if you're running a marathon. There's a little station where you refuel and you do all of that. Extremely important. But I tell people you don't have to go all in the first day. Most of our rituals, Ayurvedic rituals, have oil in them. And I want to talk for a minute about oil because it is such a gift. And it's not oil in your body. It's oil on your body always. So it's not like consuming oil will not do the same thing. That in fact might hurt you. But all our rituals are hair oiling, oil pulling, nasya in the nose, netra basti in the eyes, karna puranam oil in the ears, oil in the belly button, oil massage on the foot, oil in front, back, like enema everywhere, right? So oil and oiling your body, abhyanga, one of the best things. Oil is life. The word for oil is sneha. Sneha also means love. It is the most self-loving practice. When our digestive systems begin to go weak as we age and we cannot eat and nourish as well, as a 16-year-old, you can eat a whole pizza and your body is forgiving. But as we age and our digestive system cannot break it down, what really nourishes us is these oils. And oils not only nourish us, they keep the circulation going as well. They do lymphatic drainage. They support with vitamin D synthesis, which is a fat-soluble vitamin. They protect and ground your nervous system. But very importantly, they replenish the microbiome. All good microbiome is lipophilic, which means it lives on fat. And when you use oils on your body, you don't need a sanitizer. It brings you to that optimum inner climate of warm and moist that we are all actually seeking and moving towards. So, oil is the ultimate gift to yourself. And if you start looking at Ayurvedic rituals, you will see oiling everything. So, pick up one practice. You may say, I'm just going to oil my hair twice a week, and you start there.
How often and which specific oil?
So I would say if I have to pick a universal oil for everybody for the hair, I would say Neeli Bhringadi Tailam.
What are the ingredients?
It's called Neeli Bhringadi Tailam. I know Indulekha, if you want to talk about brands, I'll tell you Indulekha does some good oils. If you want to talk about a common brand which is available to everybody, Indulekha, I have
Right.
so far. But if you, it's quite easy, you'll be surprised, like it's very easy to find Neeli Bhringadi Tailam. Right, so the
Okay.
ingredients that you're looking for are Neeli, Bhringraj, Amla, Brahmi. These are the ingredients
Okay.
you're looking for. And if you
Yeah,
can
okay.
do out of these 4 ingredients, you're gold.
And how often, when you say oiling your
I would say
oil
really-
massage or oiling your hair, how often?
So your body, you can oil every day. It takes 5 minutes. I do it every single day, right? So ideally before you exercise, but even if you cannot get to it, you see all the Kalari masters and you see all the wrestlers with all
Right.
oil on their body. Because when you oil your body before you exercise, you're getting so much more out of your exercise and you're recovering faster. And that oil penetrates deeper. Listen, Samantha, in the biohacking world, in the West, I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time, months, that somebody is going to say, for higher increased recovery, don't do ice baths, do oil massage before you go exercise.
I'm sure. I have no doubt. But who's going to go to the gym all like
No, so
oily and
wipe it down.
ruining all the equipment in the gym?
Well, so then you actually wash your palms. You wash your palms
Okay.
and you wipe it down a little bit. Oil is oil, it'll still stay. Even if you wipe it down with a towel, as long as you've not washed
Right.
it off, it's still like a little bit of it is going to stay. So I tell people, just like you would put moisturizer, you want to oil your body 5 minutes and you can wipe it.
Okay.
And then you can put on your clothes and then you can go exercise. But let's say you're not doing that. Listen, Samantha, on many days I don't do it. Many days I don't oil my body before. But the time I oil my body is before I go into the shower. Then you oil your body before you go in. It'll also protect your skin barrier. Water is very harsh for the body. And the oil also, by the way, detoxes. Oil has a property of going inside the pores, pulling grime out. Even if you put oil like in a container, right, you'll see all the dirt comes to the surface. So oil, everything comes to the surface and then you go into the shower. And it's only what, your skin is protected, your microbiome is protected, you've detoxed yourself. So I would say you start with hair oiling twice a week.
Right.
That you do twice a week, because twice or thrice, depending on how often you're washing your hair. But every time you're washing your hair, before that you want to oil your hair. This applying oil on your body, Samantha, I've never found, and I work with people around the world, nobody gives up this practice, by the way. Once they take it on, and it takes only 5 minutes, people are like, I'm not giving up my Abhyanga. And then sometimes people are like, but I'll do it after my shower. And I'm like, okay, start there. Then they say, oh, I tried it before my shower and it felt amazing. And then I have people tell me, I tried it before my exercise and it's even more amazing. So build it up and do tongue scraping. Tongue scraping is the only known oiling practice we have, which is removing the gunk from your tongue after digestion at night. Your body goes through a metabolic repair and the gunk comes. Tongue scraping is like having a bowel movement. You want to do it. You have all this gunk sitting and you want to take it off. You want to stimulate your taste buds and tongue. So those are 3 charyas that I would say you want to start with. And then you'll make your way, because Ayurveda will find you. Once you've kind of laid this down, you've surrendered a little bit to Ayurveda, you'll see that it finds you everywhere. It'll find you on your TikTok, it'll find you, somebody will say something and you'll pick it up. The chances are then you'll do Nasya and oil pulling, which are like even beyond magical practices. The reason why I don't introduce them first, Nasya is these oil drops. I don't introduce them first because people find it far-fetched. They need to experience benefits of something that's easier and simpler first, and then they're very willing to try that Nasya.
What's something in the biohacking world right now that's a huge trend that you were like, what? I've been saying this for so long, and this has been in Ayurveda for ages, and you've just given it a new name and made it a trend.
And I'd say, I mean, I think one of the first is like how much biohackers are talking about like your circadian rhythms is like, yeah, like we talked about color, like before we knew the term circa, right, in the Western world. So that I would say, I would also say fasting, intermittent fasting. Like we in Ayurveda, we in India understand Langhanam so well. We've been doing it for so long, and we understand how it works.
Do you fast?
So, Samantha, my body is a little bit also hot on the hotter side and a little bit on the drier side. And as I'm getting older, it's becoming drier. So we can't afford a lot of fasting, by the way. We cannot afford.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Uh,
I can't afford any fasting.
Yeah, you can't, because your body will suddenly fire up and it'll start eating your own mucosal lining. It'll be like, okay, give me something. If not, I'll eat your own tissue. But people, for the biohacking world and for men, it can be useful. But the way I fast is just how we're supposed to live, which is eat early,
Right, I
not
agree.
eat till the next morning. And almost everybody can afford to do that and must do that. But basically, I think biohackers are putting their body into active ketosis, and that's more in the West because they're used to snacking so much. They've had a lifetime of imbalance. They've had a lifetime of accumulated toxins. And for that, fasting for a longer period can be helpful because they want their body's fire to come back on, and in the absence of food, actually start breaking down those toxins.
There are modern food habits now in India that has really ruined it for us. So, if you had to pick 5 ingredients from traditional Indian kitchens that you should go back to immediately, what would they be?
Go back to consuming.
Yes.
And like, of course, right, haldi. Everybody in the world is doing turmeric. I mean, we definitely want to go back to it. In fact, Harvard biologists have studied. I have a friend actually who studied. Right now she's doing something else, but she did a PhD at Harvard. And when she did a PhD at Harvard, she saw that turmeric, they were looking at DNA altering substances, which could change the DNA so that people wouldn't get cancer. And the only substance they found was turmeric. And she quit that career because she was like, what? I've had a full circle moment, because she was born Indian. So she was like, oh my God, what my parents have been telling me all along is what I've gone to Harvard and done a PhD for. So anyways, I would say that bring back haldi, and in a reasonable, don't do turmeric shots, don't go crazy and do like raw turmeric. Just use turmeric the good old way, put it in all your foods, drink it in your milk, put some black pepper when you can, go back to turmeric. I would say one ingredient that we've actually lost, Samantha, is sont, dried ginger. We've lost it. And you want to make a comeback with it. And maybe not so much in the summers, but even sprinkling ginger powder a little bit in your water, a little bit in your foods. It has a very strong flavor, so it's an acquired taste, but acquire it. Because I would say it is actually even better than turmeric when it comes to breaking down toxins and antioxidants. It's divine. And traditional Chinese medicine also is obsessed with dried ginger for the same reason.
It's also good for women's health, isn't it?
It is just good because it breaks everything down, and it's very good at breaking down toxins, so spotting toxins in your body and breaking it down. And I think for that, it cleanses the body in a way on a regular basis so that you can actually have an activated hormonal system.
Wow. Okay, so haldi, dried ginger.
Dried ginger, but don't overdo anything. So dried ginger can cause excessive heat. So you'd put a pinch here, you put a pinch there. It's very potent. I would say hing, asafoetida. A lot of people, I say in modern kitchens, don't love to use hing. And I see this because they're like, oh, now we're just given up and we've altered our recipes. So I would say you want to go back to using good quality hing if you can. Again, it is an acquired taste, but it can be really good. Ajwain, carom seeds. Beautiful. Like my main spice box has ajwain. A lot of times ajwain is in another box, my main spice box. Because in our generation, we eat a lot more cruciferous vegetables than our ancestors did. Which is like cabbage and cauliflower and all of that. I mean, we eat broccoli even in India. So all of those need a little bit of carom seeds. We eat a lot more
What
beans.
does it do?
It's a complete debloater. So it absolutely, any of these cruciferous vegetables, by the nature of their metabolism, when they start breaking down in your system, they kind of, because they're so
Can cause
fibrous,
bloating.
if I have to go into the science of it, they kind of, because of their fiber, they change the gut bacteria a little bit. And then people get very bloated. But that Karen seeds will just prevent that altogether. Ajwain will just prevent it altogether. So in the cooking of these foods, of beans, which we're eating again more than our ancestors did, you want to put those Karen seeds, right? So we did haldi with the dried ginger, not fresh ginger, is very different. We did hing, and now we did asafoetida, and then we did ajwain, which is Karen seeds. If I have to pick a fifth ingredient, I would pick, and I think this is used widely, so I'm trying to think, I would pick cumin. Oh no, actually forget cumin. I would pick saunf. Again, the reason why I'm going to pick saunf or fennel seeds is because we're not using it as widely, right? So these are things that need to make a comeback. Listen, when I was growing up, like the combination of saunf and dhana ki dal was like every restaurant had it. People would have it in their like mouth freshener boxes. Now saunf is not done as much unless it's like in really sugared form in just as a mukwas or an end of meal mouth freshener. So you want to come back to fennel seeds. And you can use fennel seeds again, like Karen seeds, when you cook cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, great for the same reason. But what's beautiful about fennel seeds to chew after your meals is that fennel seeds are astringent and sweet in nature. They are a showstopper. They tell your digestive system that I don't need any more food. They put an end to your eating because of that astringency. But they also have this sweetness, so they fulfill your sweet craving at the same time.
Right.
So they seal the deal when it comes to your meal. It satisfies your sweet craving, and it supports digestion. So I personally think everybody needs to go back to chewing fennel seeds once they're done with their meals.
Yeah, I think I've already learned so much, and there's so much to take away from this. And another area that I have been curious about is what is Ayurveda's standpoint on hormonal health and perimenopause and the transition to menopause? Because today we're talking so much about cycle syncing and rhythm. So, what in its traditional sense, what was Ayurveda's standpoint on it?
Yeah. And I like to use this analogy where I say that women, we start off as this oil lamp full of oil and fire. At 17, you can see a young teenager has it both, fuel and fire. Skin is oily. Even the acne on the skin at 16, 17, the pimples are like juicy pimples, right? Like they're full of fluid. And then it's how do you use your fuel? And then when we come to perimenopause, think about that oil just being done. Like we've used away all the fuel. And now that flame begins to get volatile. People experience hot flashes. And then there's smoke. The flame goes off. And that's really the end of that whole reproductive era for a woman. And we actually can see these symptoms physically. We can see the start, the menarche, the start of this period with excessive fluids in the body. Everything is taut and nice. We can see the end where women, dry hair, dry skin, wrinkles, they have all dry. Internally, there's a lot of dryness, there's bloating. So it is a very natural process. And while it can feel like aging, you really can't be really aging at 50 because you have another 40, 50 years of your life ahead of you. So I want to give a script, a narrative shift and say it's not aging. It's a transition into another phase, which is, yes, it is drier, it is wiser, it is more internal than it is outside. So that definitely happens. And it's a rhythm. Hormones are a rhythm. And when one rhythm goes off, right? Like, for example, Samantha, if it starts snowing in Bombay today, you would be like, yes, for a second, wow. And then you'd be like, this is really crazy. One off rhythm. Or if one day, even for 1 minute, the earth decides to stop rotating, 1 minute, everything we'll have different, everything will go crazy, chaotic on the planet. So everything in our body is a rhythm. Our bowel movements are a rhythm. Our age phases are a rhythm. Our menstrual cycle and our hormones are definitely rhythms in the body. And when we kind of have this messed up circadian cycle of sleeping late, of eating all over, you miss that rhythm. And our hormones go back all the way to that rhythm: how you eat, how you sleep. That's the first rhythm in our body on a daily basis. You want to bring that on place, because then your hormones, which is another rhythm, will also be in time and on place. And when it comes, so you want to have a whole menarche to menopause. You want to have as much rhythm as possible in your menstrual cycles. And yes, we can break this down to the nth degree, Samantha, but we may not do that on today's episode. But it's like what you eat in the first half of your cycle can look slightly different from what you eat towards the end of your cycle, and it can be useful. And similarly, perimenopause is like the end of that cycle. It is a long, hot, dry spell for women, and which becomes then just cool dry from hot dry once the flame is off. And it requires special care. Oiling is a big part of it because you're becoming so dry. Actually, it's hot and dry, just like I told you that your constitution's tendency could be hot and dry. Mine tendency is hot and dry. So we just have to be very careful of refueling ourselves in the right way. And while there are certain foods that can help, you cannot be overly reliant on food, because even your digestion is going drier at that point. So you do all these rituals, you use your breath, you use your mind, you use your voice, you use periods of silence. Again, a great way to refuel our body is to use periods of silence. There are certain types of meditations which take you to the back of the brain. I mean, these are actually very easy. They do a lot more for you than this intense focus with your eyes all the time, which is again hot and dry. So there are a million tools in the toolkit. And I tell people you don't have to take all of them. You take the ones that resonate with you. But the essential principle is, how do you bring back moisture in the most subtle and the most easiest ways when you're going through those times? That's first principle. And the second principle is, keep to your rhythms as much as possible. Everything is a rhythm. And the more you stay in rhythm, the more you stay in health.
Yeah, I think another aspect of Ayurveda that I found fascinating was that your emotional and mental being is part of your holistic health. And modern medicine is only now talking about it, and not only now agreeing that this could be a factor. And that emotions can manifest in different ways and affect your health, your physical health. You mentioned something so beautiful. You said inner constipation. So I was really curious, how much does, your mental health affect your body? What is Ayurveda's standpoint on how to express, how to get it out, how to not burn out?
Yeah. Samantha, you know what's very beautiful? You know what the Ashtanga Hridayam starts with? The first sutra in the ancient text that we all refer to as Ayurvedic Vedyas. It says, Ragadi Rogan, I'm going to just say it, it's very quick, okay? Ragadi Rogan Satitanu Shaktan, Asesha Kaya Prasutana Seshan, Autsukya Moha Ratitan Jaganam, Yapurva Vaidya Namosta Tasmai. What this says is that disease starts, like the minute my body starts feeling greed, anger, jealousy, insecurity, etc. The first sutra, I become restless and my internal equilibrium changes. Arati happens, which is like this kind of, we feel the shift in the chemistry. That creates disease on two levels. Firstly, the biochemistry changes. In the long term, your biology changes. Chemistry changes, biology changes. But also, it propels me against my wisdom and leads me to take action which will eventually lead to disease. So it starts in the mind. And Ashtanga Hridayam tells you right there, in our perfectly aligned states, Samantha, we would be so tuned to the sun and the moon, we'd be wanting to sleep at 10. We would not want to reach for that extra bag of chips because now I'm like a little stressed, I need that extra bag of chips. We would not have excessive greed. So mind is everything. Mind is everything. And when you look at also the causes for dosha imbalance, for every dosha, it says what kind of emotions can actually lead to aggravating those doshas. For example, fear and excessive worry and thinking incessantly can aggravate vata, can aggravate that dryness in your body. Holding emotions strongly inside can aggravate kapha, because it's holding. Kapha likes to build, hold. Being extremely short, snappy, anger, heat, that's all heat, Anger is a hot emotion. That can aggravate pitta. So all of these can aggravate doshas, but we actually feel it, right? When you're feeling uncomfortable, we see the discomfort, the arati in our body, and then we see what happens. So there are different ways of doing this. Having rhythms to your day, and I know it sounds far-fetched, but the best antidote for even anxiety is having routine, because your body feels safe and it feels predicted. But Ayurveda also borrows into yoga. It talks about counseling first, it talks about therapy, sattva vijaya chikitsa, that you do this kind of...
Really? Ayurveda spoke about therapy? How, in what way? How?
It actually talks about sattva vijaya chikitsa, which means that treatment, like it says, okay, this is what your client needs, for example. And it says that this sattva vijaya is how do you work with him to bring back the sattva, to bring back the purity and clarity. So as Vaidyas, we're supposed to be therapists as well. And that's what I do in my practice, right? And Ayurveda is all about rhythms and patterns. And if you've developed a pattern, a trigger pattern of a certain sort, like every time somebody talks to me like this, I feel so judged and angry. That's a pattern. That's a rhythm in your body. And as a Vaidya, we identify all rhythms. And then we use things like Sattva Vijaya Chikitsa, putting you back into rituals, doing your massages, again, which is actually very grounding for your nervous system. So there are physical things we do, there's therapy that we do. For somebody like me, I do engage in a lot of breath work to work with that. I actually even do inner child work. You would see, there is something called, Samantha, there's something called Trasan Chikitsa. Trasan means harassment, right? So when people...
Explain inner child work. What do you mean? That's
Yeah.
quite a fascinating term.
Yeah, and I'm going to explain Trasan really quickly because it is so fun, right? Trasan Chikitsa is hitting somebody on the head, like an electric shock treatment. When they have severe psychosis, and we think that, like, basically the belief that vata has gone up in the head, like some kind of aggressive, shocking treatment, which now, like, the world is like electric shock treatment. But Ayurveda is like the master of everything that's happening. I mean, just everything that's out there in the world. Ayurveda, whether it's brown fat, sleeping in cold, I mean, it's just crazy. Ayurveda always had it and explained it in better detail than scientists can today. Anyways, I'll talk about inner child.
Ayurveda spoke about brown fat as well.
Yeah, it's a kind of, so basically when you're in the winter months, it talks exactly about that Guru and Shita. It's heavy and it's cold outside, your pores shut down, your Agni lights up, and your body goes into this juicy reality in the winter months. That's exactly what scientists are saying today. Sleep in a cold room, have a heavy blanket, and then it talks about how there's your body does its thermogenesis and produces brown fat. Right? Scientists are saying what Ayurveda has said all along. Thermogenesis is that opening of the Agni in a different way. So Ayurveda talks about everything. But going back to inner child work, so the inner child work that I personally do is, Samantha, Ayurveda talks about manasik rogas like basically diseases of the mind. And what happens is today I see a lot more of that than actually people not having good food access or good choice access. Everybody has choices today. People have choices to access. People can make, hey, I'm going to eat this rice or I'm going to eat this pizza. And they both are available to me. But it's about how we're living and how we're thinking and how we're using food as a coping mechanism. So most people that I meet have used food as a coping mechanism for some sort of experience they've had as children. So when I do inner child work, I basically work with people to connect them with a certain climate that they experience every time they're triggered. I go into very specifics. I say, how is it that you're feeling? And I make it very palpable for them. So they say, I feel so hot and dry. Like, I just feel my entire body is on fire, right? And then we work on, I do spend some time going back and seeing if they can, I have a meditation, people go into this process, and some people think it's like psychedelic work, but it's not psychedelic, literally, where they kind of find that person, that little girl that they left behind, or that little person that left behind. We all have little parts of ourselves that are traveling with us. I'm 43, I could have 10 parts, Nidhi, that are like right behind me, one that, and our job is really through our life not to leave them behind, because we do leave them behind when, like, Nidhi who was anxious comes up, or Nidhi who was insecure comes up. My goal is actually now to address them as they were little children of mine and take them with us, because they actually support us. They make us more whole. And the minute that we give them attention, those parts of us, I work in the parts theory, it's called inner family systems, inner IFS. And the minute you give them attention and compassion, they kind of become one with you, and they don't come up so often again anymore. They're safe, right? Think about crying children in a car of, like, somebody has 8 kids. Mama, I want this, Mama, I want this, Mama, I want this.
You're right.
And they keep coming back, and you say, okay, here, you take your water, you take your snack. Somebody is hot, I'll turn on the AC. The minute they're addressed, now they're all happy, and you're having this fun ride. So I basically bring that work to what I do. And I use a lot of regulation tools. Bring the climate out, that when this happens, what is the climate inside? I work with this concept of climate a lot. And then we work on regulating how that feels through different tools, whether it's breath, whether it's humming, whether it's music, whether it's journaling. In my practice, I use all those tools to start regulating when those experiences happen. And I bring them, then they come back to equilibrium.
Sorry?
It's a lifelong journey. The journey is a lifelong journey.
Yeah, especially in today's modern world, we're overstimulated, we're disconnected from nature. What is something that, say, my work is hectic, my life is hectic, I'm constantly traveling, but I want to bring some of these routines into my life, because everything that you've shared is truly, most of them I practice, and I know that they've brought so many changes to my life. I was constantly looking outwards for validations, looking outwards for help, looking to other people to help me. But now I have equipped myself by finding my own unique rhythm, and I feel like I've reached a place where I have a lot of the answers that I'm looking for. So I know the power of all of these small practices. They might seem so small, they might seem in fact insignificant. I mean, oiling yourself every day, but it's not just that. It's also the routine that you mentioned, that you have these set of routines, and they bring stability to you. They ground you. How do I explain it? What I've understood is that they can, even if I might be having a bad day, they somehow bring me back.
I love it. I love that you've come to that conclusion on your own, Samantha, because that's exactly what they do. The best antidote to anxiety, like I say, is routine. Because your body, that's what happens in an ashram. The reason why people transform in an ashram is because their body goes into a same rhythm every day. In the ashram, you're not doing anything different, but you're just living in order. Like people go and help in the kitchen, then people wash their clothes, then people walk to one place, then people walk to another place, and it's like that, right? And it becomes a spiritual experience. Living in a routine is a spiritual experience. Your body feels so safe, right? It knows so well what's going to happen that it taps into deeper layers. It taps into your deeper subconscious. You have awakenings as a result. And you feel it's about anxiety is feeling unsafe, routine is feeling safe.
Right.
And it is and it's possible, like you said, right, Samantha, you travel so much. You probably travel 10 times more than me for work. And I travel a ton as a normal civilian. I travel a lot as well for work. And I know that just some of these routines, some of these rituals, whether it's oiling my body, whether it's coming back to my breath, whether it's for me journaling or nasya, they keep me home, inside, even if my body is outside.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the same feeling I have. We've spoken of many things, but is there something that you would like to add that I might be missing?
So, right, Samantha, like Ayurveda is like this whole treasure chest, and
I know 1 hour is never enough, and will.
but it's a good start. It's a great start for someone to start looking at this differently. And all I can say to people who are listening, listen, I always remind myself on a daily basis that if worms with 2 senses know what they need to eat, the soil they need to go in, their reproductive cycles, if animals know, we know. Our problem is not that we're not intelligent. The problem is that we're overly intelligent. We've used our intellect so much that we've lost our intuition. We lean into information outside so much that we've lost our instinct and our own wisdom. It is all within you. And I'm not saying you instantly say, oh, I'm not going to listen to anything outside. But just become really aware of the patterns and the rhythms of the world outside of your body. And just go back to living like that. And you will notice not only a world of difference in your physical and mental health, but your joy for life and your fulfillment in life changes drastically.
What would you say is like, now if I need to motivate my listeners to begin some of these practices, what would be the biggest motivation? Tell me a story that seems like magical to you now that you think about it, like a story that you witnessed, the life-changing story of a client, maybe something that can motivate my listeners to start
Yeah, okay. I'm going
Give
to
that jump start. Give them that jump start.
Yes, that's a great way to do this. But I'm going to talk about an Iranian woman who, for 40 years, she was on a path. And she's a little bit older, but she's taken every possible class, and she was a serial class taker. And her way to feel better was, let me take a class. Oh, now I'll learn this. Oh, but now maybe I need to learn neuro-linguistic programming. Oh, and maybe now I'm going to take a functional nutrition class. Oh, but maybe I need to take. So she was doing this for about 30, 40 years. She started very
Wow.
young. And she was like, the more I did that, the more lost I felt, the less confident I felt in myself. And she was like, I was going to bed feeling horrible. And then I would wake up saying, oh, no, I have to do this right. And then she was like, but I would feel so bad about myself that I would end up eating large amounts of food and then shaming myself and then doing it all over again, right? And this happens in big or small ways. Samantha, we get into these cycles of shame and then binge behavior of anything, shaming of TV and then binging on TV, whatever it is. And she actually did a program with me where we kind of got into Ayurveda and got into these principles and how you can start trusting your life within and how do you set up. And literally, like at the end of the program, she was in like, she like had this whole pile of books and I'm giving this all away. She's experience to me was like my teacher. I don't know, I forgot the word she used, but she was like, I've just been given it all now. I don't need these books anymore. I don't need these classes anymore. I'm like finally what I've been seeking for. And she's done some really like a lot of courses, a lot of programs. This is my North Star. This is what I needed to understand. And it's not just practicing Ayurveda, it's understanding it the right way. It's understanding the rhythms. And you become part of this world's musical orchestra, everything. Imagine in a large orchestra that the world is playing. And if there's all rhythm, everybody's in rhythm, it's only music. But imagine if one person goes off rhythm. It becomes noise.
Chaos. Yeah.
It becomes chaos. Suddenly, what happened? And we all have the power to go back into that rhythm so we can enjoy music of life.
I think that's also important, that it does not mean that now that you're on this path that you will never be out of rhythm. I think that all of us have our bad days, and it's very important for people to understand that everyone has bad days. You might be an Ayurvedic practitioner, I might look like I'm sorted, but all of us have bad days. But it's about getting back to the rhythm and being okay and not shaming yourself for those few bad days and bringing your rhythm back. So I think what you said also was so beautiful, that understanding Ayurveda the right way. That's what I think that I have gained from this 1 hour, is the knowledge that there are no rigid, hard and fast rules. It's really about having the faith that your body knows and finding your rhythm.
I could have not said it better.
So I think that this is a great start. But before I let you go, I'm just going to do a quick rapid fire.
Go for it.
One Ayurvedic ritual that you swear by, I think it's going to be oil massages, isn't it?
Applying all on your body.
Okay. Is ghee really the answer to everything?
Not at all. Ghee is great. It's an elixir for life, but not everybody can break it down. Plus, wrong types. All ghee needs to be cultured, which is usually in India, you get cultured ghee only. But across the world, people are doing non-cultured ghee and calling it ghee. That's not even ghee.
Okay. What's one everyday thing we all do that completely messes up our digestion?
Is eat a late.
Coffee, yay or nay? Please say yay.
Listen, if it is your poison, if you love it, keep it. Make sure that you've put good milk in it. You put cardamom in it. If you can put a little ghee in it, go for it. Do it
I'm going to do that.
Do it at the right time. First half of the day rather than second half of the day.
Right. 5 foods the world says is healthy, but Ayurveda says no.
Protein smoothies.
Okay.
Apple cider
Protein
vinegar.
smoothies. Oh, okay.
Raw salads. Excessive millets. And anything that has a label of low fat on it.
Okay. What's the deal with food combining? Is it really that serious?
It is 100% accurate. And some of them have accumulation of slow poison that you don't realize, slow toxins. And some you can feel right away as well. You can start feeling heavy in your system, but you will notice the difference when you stop doing that.
A beauty ritual that from Ayurveda that totally works.
Oil cleansing.
Wow, okay. What's the Ayurvedic verdict on these top wellness brands? Smoothies for breakfast. I know the answer to that.
Smoothies for breakfast? You already heard my take. It's like
Yeah.
snowstorm in spring. It's like a harvesting.
Now do. Intermittent fasting.
We are meant to eat not after 6 and then start eating when the sun rises. And that's my idea of intermittent fasting. Go for it. Most people can do it.
Cold plunges.
Unless you're a yogi and you're exposed to natural Himalayan cold and you're doing enough tapasya to have internal heat, thermoregulation in your body, women, it's a shock for their system.
Okay. So we're talking about women and then that's a no.
At least pairing. You can do cold water in your shower, but a complete cold plunge, we don't need it. We have estrogen, which is anti-inflammatory, and it has to be done like a yogi if you're getting cold exposures.
And the last one, you have 10 seconds to convince a skeptical millennial to try an Ayurvedic lifestyle.
Listen, are you really happy?
I'm convinced.
Yeah. It is, if I really have 10 seconds, I'm just going to be like, are you really happy? Try a new path that ancestors did with higher fulfillment, not living in this era.
Convinced. Okay, I have just one more quick on Na.
Ayurveda or?
Na.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Fruits are great desserts after meals.
No,
Dosha decides your personality.
can be. So Ayurveda-ish. Yeah, Ayurveda.
Turmeric in everything is Ayurvedic.
No,
Curd yogurt is amazing for health.
no,
Curd is amazing for health.
no.
Iced water kills your inner Agni.
Ayurveda.
You should never drink water with meals.
No,
Everyone should wake up at 5 a.m.
no. Women
You-
need more sleep because their bodies can get very dry.
You must be vegetarian to follow Ayurveda.
No. You don't have
You
to.
are vegetarian, yeah.
Very vegetarian, but you don't have to be.
Oil massage is a great biohack.
Absolutely Ayurveda.
Thank you, Nidhi, so
Thank you
much for
so
your time.
much.
This is a great start. I just absolutely know that we'll be doing more of this soon
Thank
because
you.
I would love to know more on the fascinating subject of Ayurveda, and I just know that you are an amazing teacher. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your questions and curiosity. And yes, hopefully next time we'll do this in person. So definitely, I've seen all the podcasts that you do in person. This was great. Very hard to bring this energy on screen, but I'm sure we'll do it in person next time.
Thank you so much, Nidhi.
Take care. Bye, Samantha. I'm going to run now.
Bye.
Bye.